Technically, what made this cinema really unique was that we were working within an existing structure. We're underground, and the room wasn't ventilated correctly. We didn't have any scope for air conditioning system. On the back side of the cinema is actually a garage. There's bulkheads through the perimeter of the room for us to put in speakers and acoustic panels and to get all that necessary items in there that we had to build down for. But we're always considering the acoustic engineering side of the project. It's what we're most known for. Getting that to work in a room where you don't have a lot of space and still make a room look spacious is a real sort of trick. We couldn't use conventional cinema chairs for the front and back row. If we did that from the back row, you'd be looking at the back of somebody's head. The resolution to that is putting a day bed at the front of the room. We've actually built in a recliner into this as well, so you can truly lie down into this seat and get your head out of the way. You can also fully recline on the back row and still see the screen, and the sight lines work really well. This is a large screen in this cinema and it's quite close to the floor, and this was the only way to achieve it. So we wanted to get these velvet curtains into the design because they're very theatrical in their look, but we had trouble fitting them into the room. So a curtain this size would probably be about 1 metre wide in terms of its gather on the side of the room, which would have impinged the picture. So to get the curtain to work, we've curved the curtain track and created a recess in behind the edges of the room. So the curtain, when it retracts, actually is going back and around and behind where the actual screen is located. So the detail that we've created here, this stepped sort of structure, it's made out of MDF, and we've then CNC routed this pattern in to the MDF. And then to get that aged look, we've hand painted this on site. So we've gotten somebody in to do this, and they've created that bronze look and added a patina to the surface so it looks like an aged metal. We had to create a bulkhead to house things like, we've got these speakers that are recessed up into this ceiling, and that's reflected at the rear of the room as well. And then because this is a very low ceiling height, we do have a first reflection point on the ceiling, which would impact the sound quality at the seats. So we've perforated the ceiling. Now, we've used a fairly wide spacing perforation. We don't want to absorb any of the real high frequency. The front speakers in this system are quite directional in terms of the higher frequency down into the mid-range, down to about sort of 1200 Hertz. So what's hitting the ceiling here is actually the bass from the bass drivers. And so this perforation extends the absorption of the system down into the bass region where we really want it to work well, but it's not taking any of the life out of the room, and we want to get that balance right. There's lots of little details in here that people don't necessarily think of. Like, you walk into a room and you go, wow, that room looks really amazing, but what you're taking into account is the entire picture that we've created for them. That's very deliberate from our perspective in terms of how we balance the room in terms of colours and materials, textures, lighting, and little details like the bar bench that we've put in here and just putting LED lighting underneath it just to elevate it a little bit in the room. We run that at a very low level. The lighting's only running at about 10%. But that little effect just adds to the room and adds layers to the room. Without the lighting, the room would look very flat. The air conditioning system in this room was designed a little bit like you would design a yacht. So in a yacht, there's not a lot of space, and the air conditioning is often taken through the wall structure and the ceiling structure of the yacht. Here we only had a step of 200 mil. We couldn't go any higher because of the fact that we needed to build these bulkheads for the speakers. So to get the air through the floor, we've actually sculpted the ductwork through the floor. So there's curved timber structure, splitting the air and taking it to the different air vents that we've got on both sides of the cinema. And then at the back of the cinema, there's another longer grille in the floor platform. So the air is split in between all of those three air registers in the floor. And then up on the ceiling at the back of the room, we've got a return air pulling the air back out of the room. So you're getting that nice airflow with air being pushed to the front of the room and then slowly finding its way back and across to the return air high up on the back wall. So what you can see here is a concrete staircase that goes from the basement level up to the next floor. and extends for a fair way into the cinema room. There's a fair bit of space behind this fabric because we built the cinema out to allow for all the air conditioning ducting to get down into the floor level and for the return air. And that's hiding a lot of the bulk of this staircase, which is quite deep if we go further back to where the wall actually was when we started. But this extends a fair way into the room, and we wanted to hide it. So obviously we've coloured it so it disappears in terms of the fabric, but even up on the ceiling level here, up on the bulkhead, there's still a point of the concrete coming into that coffered ceiling. And that's hidden a little bit by the fact that we've introduced this geometric pattern up onto the ceiling. And so even though it's an element that we couldn't hide in the room design, it's almost invisible. No one pays attention to it. So that's a real trick that we're proud of. This is a printed wallpaper. We've custom designed this from scratch. So the design, the colors, everything we've designed from scratch. Had that printed, then put it on as a wallpaper on the ceiling, and then created little things like this is a little timber detail that we've had made up, and then we've stained it to match the timber on the bulkheads. So all these little details are things that people probably wouldn't necessarily think of. And for us, it's not just a case of resolving the problem, but it's also enhancing the design as we go and continually adding more layers to the designs, more sort of intricate details, which are an important part of this type of cinema design. With trying to do an Art Deco design, we wanted to get elements that really inform Art Deco in the design. So introducing this inlaid timber veneer platform onto the hushbox at the rear of the room, which really is a focal point when you turn around and look at the back of the room, is an important detail that we wanted to keep in the room, and we actually fought to keep this. This was something that was at one point deleted out of the design, and we fought to get it back in because we consider it an important part of bringing this whole room together as being Art Deco. In a lot of our cinema rooms, we do a hushbox, and this is no different. So the projector is accessible from the garage. So when we go to the garage side, we can open up the doors and we can access this cavity. There's a concrete column in the back of this cinema that we couldn't actually move. And so the reason why the glass is so wide in this particular project is because the projector is offset behind the glass. And we wanted the glass to look symmetrical and look correct in the room, but we couldn't actually get the projector to be centralized in the room. Most projectors have a horizontal offset, so it's not an issue getting the projector image onto the screen, but we still want it to look symmetrical in the room. So there's little things like that in terms of the design that people don't necessarily think of, but there's actually a reason as to why that was designed this way. We're in the garage at the rear of the cinema, and a lot of this joinery was here before we came. There's a whole lot of electrical for the house in here that we had to work with and modify to get everything that we needed into the room. So I'll open that up in a moment, but none of this existed beyond this point. This is the concrete column that I was referring to from inside the room that limits where we could put the projector, and this is where the air conditioning system resides for the cinema room. We couldn't fit that inside the room because we couldn't drop the ceiling height at all. So it has to live out here in the garage. And when we talk about fresh air and ventilation, we're bringing fresh air into the cinema from the front of the cinema. There's actually, the intake's about sort of 6 or 7 meters to the side of where the cinema is. It runs through another room. That was the only way to sort of get it to work. And the ventilation for that system is into the garage. So bringing air through the house from the other side and then venting it into this garage space from the air conditioning system. Now, underneath all of this is where we've built in additional joinery. And part of the reason we put that in is to house the AV rack. All these panels open up, so obviously that door opens up to get at the equipment. There's access panels on each side that I can sort of pull off to get at all the equipment. So I've got nice and easy access to it. I can spin the whole rack around, and I've got easy access to the back of it all, and you can see all the cable that's loomed up and separated. So power is loomed separately to signal cables So the integrity of the signal is nice and clean. This is fundamental to delivering a really high-end system. It's just doing everything really well, the little details. This is part of why we win a lot of awards is our racks and our cable management systems and the way we label our systems. In behind this cupboard is our lighting automation system. We prefer to use Lutron just because it's the highest grade product on the market when it comes to doing lighting control. You can see our projector hushbox here. Now the projector is mounted in there, and you can see we've got this box is fully lined in absorptive material. We need to quieten the projector down. It's not just a case of throwing it into a box. We want to eliminate as much noise as possible. We also need to be able to ventilate the projector. So you can see here there's a grill here, which is basically drawing air from the heat from the back of the projector out of the box, which is venting out here. We have another intake. You can see here on the bottom from the floor where we're taking cold air off the bottom of the floor and up and into the side of the projector. So all of this, you can't really see the detail. It's all hidden behind the structure we've built, but it's part of what makes this system work. So we basically had to take what was there because we didn't want to completely rewire the entire electrical system for the house. That wasn't our contract. But we had to consolidate it. So we spent some time just rearranging all the cabling that's there. We actually cut down a lot of the panels that are here, put in new structure to screw it off to, and just sort of shifted everything across to get everything to work. You can see there, that's one of our inline fans for our projection exhaust system. This is all part of what we're doing within our designs, is making things that often that aren't part of our contract work in the house design. Everything you see here was an integral part of the design from the outset. Like, it's part of our process to work that way to resolve the technical side of the projects before we actually start looking at the aesthetic. Otherwise, we could be wasting our time going in a direction that just will not work. This project was an award-winning cinema, and we didn't just win an award for best cinema, we won an award for the architectural design of the room, and what the architects noted when they judged that was how we actually resolved the cinema and the technical details within the limitations of the design. And that's something I'm very proud of.